You know how sometimes you hear about something constantly, like Bitcoin, but actually understanding what it is feels like trying to crack some kind of code. You're curious, right? You want to get it, but all the jargon, the hype, it can be, well, a lot.
Definitely.
So that's exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We're aiming to cut through all that noise, focus on the absolute core of Bitcoin, and give you the essentials, hopefully in a way that just clicks.
Think of this as your express lane to understanding Bitcoin. We've sifted through, well, mountains of information to pull out what really matters.
Okay.
And at its heart, Bitcoin is about a pretty revolutionary idea. Sending digital value, like digital cash, directly between people without needing a middleman like a bank. That's the puzzle we're going to unpack.
Okay, let's start with something really simple. Imagine paying a friend back for coffee. You just hand them, say, a $10 bill. Simple. Boom. Done. It's instant. It's just between the two of you. Nobody else needs to know. Pure peer-to-peer.
Exactly. And that physical cash example, it highlights some really key benefits. It's immediate, direct, and it offers, a level of privacy.
Sure.
But the minute you and your friend aren't in the same physical place, well, that simplicity just evaporates. You can't just beam that cash across the country or overseas.
No, absolutely not. And that's where we usually turn to electronic transfers, right?
Yeah.
Bank apps, Venmo, PayPal, credit cards. We use them all the time.
Constantly.
But if you stop and think about it, there's always a third party involved, isn't there? A bank, a payment processor, someone.
Always. We have to trust these entities, these intermediaries, to handle our money correctly. One of the papers we looked at actually detailed just how many steps and parties are involved in a typical international wire transfer. It's surprisingly complex.
And that reliance, that trust, it can lead to frustrations. We've all probably felt, delays.
Delays.
Fees that seem to come out of nowhere, sometimes really high ones. And just the sheer complexity sometimes, especially sending money internationally, it makes you wonder, why is it so hard just to send my own money?
Exactly. Why the friction?
Okay, so this leads us neatly to Bitcoin. The foundational document, the white paper, described it as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So think of it like a software program, maybe, and an online network that lets you do those direct peer-to-peer value transfers we talked about with cash, but digitally over the internet, and crucially, without those traditional middlemen.
Precisely. And it's probably helpful to clarify here. When people say Bitcoin, they often mean two connected things. There's the Bitcoin network, that's the underlying technology, the system, and then there's Bitcoin, usually with a lowercase b, which is the actual digital currency itself. Its ticker symbol is BTC, so you use the BTC currency on the Bitcoin network.
Got it. Network and currency. Now, the origin story here is pretty fascinating. It came from someone, or maybe a group, using the name Satoshi Nakamoto.
It's a pseudonym,
Back in October 2008, they released this really important document, the Bitcoin white paper. And the title alone, Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, tells you so much about the intention right there.
It really does. And what's compelling is that the very first lines of that paper tackle the exact problem we've been discussing. It lays out this vision for online payments sent directly from one person to another, completely cutting out financial institutions. It was a direct...
The huge challenge, the big question Satoshi had to solve was, how do you build a system for digital money without a central referee? How do you stop people from cheating, from spending money they don't have, if there's no bank checking everything?
That's the crux of it, isn't it? In the real world, if I hand you a 20, I don't have it anymore. But digitally, it's easy to copy things. The risk of someone copying and spending the same digital money twice, it's called the double spending problem, that was the major hurdle. Satoshi's genius was designing a system that doesn't need us to trust any single entity to prevent that.
And the solution involves the distributed ledger, the blockchain. Okay, this term gets thrown around a lot. Can you break it down simply?
Sure. Imagine like a shared digital notebook. Everyone involved in the Bitcoin network has an identical copy of this notebook.
Okay.
Every time a transaction happens, say Alice sends some Bitcoin to Bob, that transaction gets written down in everyone's notebook. But this notebook isn't stored in one central bank vault. It's distributed, copied across thousands of computers running the Bitcoin software. We call these computers nodes.
So it's like thousands of independent bookkeepers all watching each other and keeping the exact same set of books.
That's a great way to put it, yes. Every new transaction is broadcast to the network, and these nodes check it, verify it's valid. Does Alice actually have the Bitcoin to send?
Right.
Once enough nodes agree it's legitimate, it gets bundled together with other recent verified transactions into what's called a block.
A block, okay.
Then this new block gets mathematically linked to the previous block using cryptography, specifically something called hashing. This creates a chronological chain of blocks, and voila, the blockchain.
And that chain structure, that linking, that's what makes it so secure. Because the records aren't just spread out, they're also locked together, making them hard to change later.
Exactly. That's the immutability point, because each block contains a sort of digital fingerprint, a hash, of the block before it. If someone tried to go back and tamper with an old transaction in, say, block 500, it would change the hash of block 500.
Right.
But block 501 contains the original hash of block 500. So the chain would break, the inconsistency would be immediately obvious to the entire network, and they'd reject the altered version. It makes cheating practically impossible without controlling an immense amount of the network's computing power.
Wow. Okay. So it creates this incredibly trustworthy, unchangeable history of transactions.
Precisely, without needing a central authority to vouch for it.
So if there's no central body, who actually runs these nodes and keeps the whole thing going?
Well, the beauty of it is its decentralized nature. Anyone, really, can run a Bitcoin node. You just download the free software onto a computer. It doesn't even need to be super high-powered, though you do need decent storage for the full transaction history, the blockchain.
And why would someone do that? Just run a node?
Various reasons. Some do it to contribute to the network's health and security. More nodes mean more decentralization. Others do it for privacy reasons, to verify their own transactions directly without relying on anyone else. It's kind of like being part of the collective bookkeeping effort.
Okay, but then we also hear about miners. They sound different. How do they fit in? Are they nodes too?
Yes, miners are nodes, but they're specialized ones. They do an extra job, a very computationally demanding job, and they get a financial incentive for doing it.
Ah, the incentive.
Right. Miners are the ones competing to bundle those verified transactions into the next block and add it to the blockchain. This whole process is what's called mining.
And mining is how new Bitcoins are actually created, isn't it? Because I know there's a fixed limited supply.
That's exactly right. The Bitcoin rules, the protocol, set a hard cap. Only 21 million BTC will ever exist.
Ever.
These new coins aren't just printed, they're giving out as a block reward to the miner who successfully solves the puzzle and adds the next valid block to the chain.
Okay.
This reward actually gets smaller over time, it halves periodically, so the rate of new Bitcoin creation slows down, ensuring we gradually approach that 21 million limit.
And to win that reward, miners perform proof of work. This is where we hear about massive computers and energy use, right?
Correct. Proof of work is the mechanism. To add a block, miners essentially have to guess a specific random number that, when combined with the block's data and hashed, produces a result that meets certain criteria set by the network.
Sounds like a lottery.
It's like a massive, computationally intensive lottery. It requires immense processing power, trying trillions of guesses per second across the whole network. And yes, that consumes a significant amount of electricity.
Yeah, that's a big topic itself.
It is. And while the energy consumption is definitely a point of ongoing debate and discussion, it's also worth noting there's a lot of focus now on using renewable energy sources for mining, and innovations are happening. But yeah, it takes energy.
Okay, so we have the network, the currency, BTC, the blockchain ledger, the nodes maintaining it, and the miners adding blocks and getting new coins. But what if I just want to, use Bitcoin, send or receive some? Do I need to be a node or a miner?
Oh, not at all, no. Think about the internet. You don't need to understand TCP/IP or run a server, just send an email, right?
Good point.
Same idea. Anyone with an internet connection can use Bitcoin. The key piece of technology that makes this possible securely for everyday users is public key encryption.
Okay, public key encryption. Sounds technical. Can you simplify that?
Let's try the digital mailbox analogy again. Imagine you have a special mailbox that needs two keys. First, there's your private key.
Private key. Got it.
This is a secret code generated randomly. You absolutely must keep this safe and secret. Think of it like the master password to your online bank account, only even more critical. It's what proves you own your Bitcoin and allows you to spend it.
Okay, super secret. What's the other key?
From that private key, using some clever math, a public key is generated. The crucial part is, this math only works one way. You can easily get the public key from the private key, but you can never go backwards to figure out the private key from the public key.
Ah, okay, one-way street.
Exactly. So your public key can be shared safely. People need it, or rather something derived from it, to send Bitcoin to you, like sharing your email address.
Okay, private key to access and spend. Public key is related to receiving. Where do Bitcoin addresses fit in then?
Right. A Bitcoin address is generated from your public key, usually through another step or two. It's like the specific shareable address for your digital mailbox. It's typically a long string of letters and numbers.
Like an account number.
Sort of, yes. That's what you give someone to send you Bitcoin. You often see them as QR codes too, makes them easy to scan with a phone.
Okay, so I need to manage these keys and addresses somehow. Is that what a Bitcoin wallet does?
Precisely. A Bitcoin wallet is basically software, or sometimes a physical device, that holds your private keys securely and manages your addresses. It lets you interact with the Bitcoin network, send Bitcoin, receive Bitcoin, check your balance. Modern wallets have lots of features, but the core job is managing those vital private keys.
Right. Now, for someone totally new wanting to get some Bitcoin today, what's the usual first step?
For most people starting out, the easiest way is probably through a cryptocurrency exchange. Places like Coinbase or Binance. They let you buy Bitcoin using your regular money, like dollars or euros. And when you sign up, they usually create a sort of built-in wallet for you right there on their platform.
Ah, but wait. If they create the wallet on their platform, who holds those super important private keys we just talked about?
Excellent question. That is the critical distinction. When you keep your Bitcoin on an exchange, the exchange controls the private keys associated with that account.
So not really my keys.
Not directly, no. You're trusting the exchange to keep them safe and give you access when you ask. Reputable exchanges have strong security, of course, but they are still a third party holding your assets.
And that introduces risk, right? Hacks, or maybe the exchange itself having problems.
Exactly. There's counterparty risk. We've seen major exchanges get hacked or collapse due to internal issues, like with FTX. If your Bitcoin is on the exchange when that happens, well, it can be lost.
Which must be why you hear so much talk in the Bitcoin space about self-custody. What exactly is that, and why is it such a big deal?
Self-custody is simply taking direct control of your own private keys. It means moving your Bitcoin off the exchange and into a wallet where you hold the keys.
Okay.
And it's key to realize you're not holding digital coins like files on a hard drive. What you hold, what your wallet secures, are the private keys that give you the authority to move the Bitcoin associated with your addresses on the public blockchain ledger.
So holding the keys is holding the Bitcoin, essentially. By controlling the keys, I control the asset recorded on the blockchain.
You've got it. And this aligns perfectly with Bitcoin's original idea, removing trust in third parties.
Right, the whole point was peer-to-peer, no middlemen.
Exactly. Trusting an exchange with your keys kind of reintroduces the very element Bitcoin was designed to eliminate. Convenience is one thing, but self-custody gives you true ownership and control.
So if someone wants to do this, take self-custody, what are their options? You mentioned different wallet types.
Yeah, the main options fall into two categories: software wallets and hardware wallets.
Okay.
Software wallets are apps you run on your computer or smartphone. They store your private keys on that device. They're convenient for smaller amounts or frequent use.
And hardware wallets.
Hardware wallets are small, dedicated physical devices, often like a little USB stick. Their whole purpose is to generate and store your private keys completely offline in a secure, encrypted chip.
Offline, so they can't be easily hacked over the internet.
Precisely. You connect them to your computer only when you need to sign a transaction, and the private key never leaves the device. They're generally seen as the gold standard, the most secure way to store significant amounts of Bitcoin long-term.
Okay, wow. We've covered a fair bit there.
Well,
From the basic idea of digital cash, peer-to-peer, to how the blockchain works as this distributed, immutable ledger, the roles of nodes and miners, how new coins are made.
Proof of work.
Proof of work, right. And then how individuals actually use it with public and private keys, addresses, wallets.
Yeah.
And this crucial difference between keeping Bitcoin on an exchange versus taking self-custody.
It's a lot, but hopefully that gives a solid foundation, a clearer picture than just hearing the buzzwords.
Definitely.
And really, if there's one key takeaway for someone new, it's this. Using an exchange might be your easy on-ramp to get Bitcoin. But the very next vital step, if you want to truly embrace what Bitcoin is about, is learning about and moving to self-custody, taking control of your keys.
Because that's how you participate in the trustless nature of the network and actually own your digital asset directly.
You nailed it. That's the core principle.
So now that we've got these fundamentals down, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What could a world look like if this kind of truly peer-to-peer digital value exchange becomes more normal, more widespread? What possibilities does that open up for us as individuals and maybe for society too?
It's a fascinating question to ponder.
Definitely something to chew on. We hope this deep dive gave you the grounding you need to start thinking about just that.